What is up, my friends? Welcome back. Another WDD Live. I need to get my chat window up here. That would be the first good way to start. Comments and reactions. Start throwing them in the comment section. Give us a like on the stream. I've got Mark Szymanski with me today. He will be, well, I need to bring him on, don't I? Let's see. He is in the green room. Let's add him to the left. There we go. Should he be on the right? On the left? Okay, let's make him on the right or on the left. I don't even know. I'm dyslexic, so it could be either way. Andre is in the house. Welcome. Cool Web Design. Welcome. We got Manny Grant, D123. Of course, it's going to be mostly OGs today because I did not send out an email to everybody. I didn't have time. I woke up a little late, had to go on my morning walk, got back from the morning walk, a little too late to send the email. Had to shower, had to get ready for this thing. So OGs in the house today. Say what's up. Striped Goat, good to see you. Okay, what are we doing today? We'll go over the agenda. So we're going to talk a little bit about a little situation that's happened in the web design YouTube community niche, whatever you want to call it. We'll talk about that. And then we're just going to have open topic conversation. You guys are going to be able to throw topic suggestions into the chat. We'll discuss them on today's stream. I think Mark probably brought some topics and questions with him. We have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know what he wants to talk about. I don't know what you guys want to talk about. We're just going to find out as we go. Okay, if you do have questions, very important. If you ask your question without a hashtag, so you don't use hashtag Q or hashtag question, guaranteed it is going to get lost. It is not going to get answered. If you put a hashtag, there's a high chance that your question will be seen and answered. So make sure you do that right if you want to throw your questions in. Questions could be on pretty much any topic. You can go agency related, you can go web design related, you can go marketing related, business related, pricing, sales, whatever. And we will give you what we've got. All right. So Mark, how are we gonna kick this thing off? We've got Chris Hughes. We're gonna start there. That's gonna be segment number one. I'll give everybody background because people may not know who Chris Hughes is. Chris Hughes, well, apparently he leads a double life. I don't know. But I've been following him I'll tell you the side of Chris Hughes I know. All right. I've been following Chris Hughes for a few years, I guess, at this point. And I knew him through his brand, A Nerd's World, which is a YouTube channel. He had a web design agency up in Canada, I believe. And, seemed like he had his stuff together. And, he was a good source of knowledge. And, it appeared that he had a good client base. And he was more on the, I think the package website kind of deal, right? Just sell some pre-done packages and just pick a theme. I even think he admitted to my team just picks themes that kind of match the aesthetic the person wants. And they essentially customize the theme and ship it out the door or whatever. But anyway, he was doing well on YouTube, I guess. He had a good channel, good following, good engagement, all of that. And that was it. And then I actually didn't follow him for a while. He's kind of been in and out of I guess you would say. Like he kind of disappears from time to time and then shows back up. So, I think as of late, he wasn't there. And then I just happened to be on Facebook scrolling in one of the Facebook groups. And somebody mentioned that this guy who looks like Chris Hughes, I guess, got arrested. And maybe somebody asked, like, what is, where's Chris Hughes at? I don't know what the whole thing was. But turns out he was in prison in where? Trinidad. And yep. And so now you chimed in when I posted this because I was like, wow, that's wild. Because he had a whole different YouTube channel that I didn't even know about that was on I don't know, travel focused or something. And I guess that got him into a little bit of an issue. But you chimed in and you were like, man, I could talk about this for days. So you seem to know more. Why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown on the man Chris Hughes?
I would be absolutely happy to do that. Chat, though, do I have an echo? We had a little bit of a problem in the green room.
Oh, there's an echo on Mark. Okay. Let's see. What do we... Well, we can bring up the settings, and we can see what we want to do with this. Ecamm Live. We got a bunch of preferences here. Okay. Let's go to some output mix mode. You're activating system output mix mode will not mix movie audio, sound effects, or guest audio into your broadcast. Okay, well, we don't know what this is about to do, guys. I'm just going to tell you that right now, okay? I'm going to hit okay on this. We're all going to find out together. Okay, here we go. All right, Mark, why don't you talk a little bit?
How about now? How are we looking, guys? How's chat?
Let us know. Now we have that awkward 15-second delay where we have to wait for them to give their input.
Let us know. Sounds good on my end. I heard it before. We talked about that. Are we good now?
Look at this. I just click random buttons. I mean, we who needs an engineer? Who needs an engineer? Not us.
No need.
Not us. Okay. All right, go for it.
We're flying blind. All right. So appreciate you having me here, Kevin. It's an honor and privilege, man. Thank you so much. Great to see you guys in the chat. Obviously, long-time viewer here, so excited to be here. Chris A. Hughes. So I would say I would echo, I would echo a lot of what you said there. And the fact that I started, web design, a little later than you definitely, but like in like 2017, 2018, and Chris and A Nerd's World was one of the first ones that I found. I learned so much from the way that he was running his business, the way that he was building websites and things like that. Some of the things I took, some of the things that I, changed and adapted after I found more research and other people as well. But he was one of the big ones. I mean, I'm literally still subscribed to him, even though he hasn't made a video since, over basically a year ago. And it was a really interesting situation. I kind of have more of the background story now because I took a deeper dive after I saw that you posted that. And it's funny because like 3 months ago, I went back and like 3 months ago, I was looking randomly again at his stuff because I was like, I wonder if he's posted anything recently. I haven't seen him in a while. I was just going through my subscriptions or whatever. And I remember that last year in September, he was doing a big push. He'd always been like an SEO guy. He'd always been like kind of like, not like keyword stuffing or whatever, but I remember one of the most ridiculous things that I ever saw, which it worked though, was like he would make the same page, like a full page of content, the same page. And then like maybe like 20 times in there, he would put a city name, the service area, like city type thing. Right. And he would just change the words out, like the city name out. And he would like rank for like North Pole, for instance, on North Pole web design. And I was like, that's an incredible idea. I don't know if it still works. And obviously the landscape's kind of changed a little bit, but that was an interesting way of doing that. So I appreciated that type of thing. He was always a hustler. He kind of said a little bit of his background in his web design. He was like, I was selling t-shirts and shit out of my car and stuff like that, like before or whatever. And he appreciated his work ethic, really did. Fast forward though, to more recently, he had the web design business. He had like kind of consulting and stuff like that involved. And he was selling courses. And if you go right now, if you guys like open a new tab, like go to A Nerd's World website, you'll see some of his videos still. But his most recent video, the comments on those are particularly not, great. It's like he's doing things like, people are just still today, like even recently, especially with the news coming back up, they're like, hey, have you, I'm still waiting on my refund for the course or support on the course or access to the course and things like that. Now, there's that side of the story, and we can get into the other part of it. Obviously, his website has now been taken over, I guess, by, I don't know. It says like there was a DNS issue or something like that. But we could talk about both sides of it because I think the secondary part where his new channel, Chris Must List, is I have a little bit of a different opinion from that because there is some more to that actual story of why he got arrested. The two aren't necessarily related, but for anybody watching, I mean, this is just a really good conversation to have about business, transitioning in business, and also like just doing right by your clients. And then obviously there's the whole stuff that he's doing, like, tourist wise. So I don't know. It's an interesting story for sure.
Yeah. So, it looks like there's just a message up on his website. I mean, what's, I don't know about the whole Sedition thing and all this other stuff that he's doing. And, I don't know. What's your general take on this?
Oh, I mean, my general take is, again, if we divide it into the two sides, I'll talk about the stuff that's like not pertinent to web design first, the Sedition and like the international travel thing. I remember when he started that channel because he mentioned it on the web design channel. And it was actually like 4 years ago that he started in like 2020-ish, I think. So he mentioned that and he was like, hey, I like to travel and I'm traveling a lot. Here's this other channel, go look at it. At the time, it only had like 10,000 subs because his main channel at the time, the web design one, only had maybe 50-ish, like somewhere in there, 30 to 50. And this new channel has like 300,000. Obviously, it's a bigger audience, more people, interested. Right. But to talk about the quick legal situation, there's really two legal situations, but talk about like the Trinidad and Tobago stuff. I actually think it's more of a different conversation, but it seems like he kind of at least did break the law of Trinidad and Tobago, or it's very close. So like, whether or not that should be the law of the way they have sedition set up and all that sort of stuff, and I'm not an expert, you could have a conversation about that. But I mean, again, they have some issues there. He's documenting those issues as what I understand to be a non-credentialed journalist. So, I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff there that we don't need to get into from the side or whatever. But the point is, like, I think he's doing something relatively admirable, but maybe he's not exactly following the law to a T. And that's just a whole different conversation, right? So as far as him actually being in jail and getting out and all that, that's kind of unrelated. What I do think is way more interesting and way more pertinent, though, is his transition away from web design.
Yeah,
how he just like, however good of a guy is now, like on, what he's trying to do, that was a little shitty because there is documented people and legal issues with that side of it, way before the tourist stuff. So yeah, we so
that part of it goes back. How far does that part of it go back, do you think? Like the skipping out on those responsibilities?
It's really funny. I don't have, full facts on that, but I mean, I remember when he was making those videos, like you kind of alluded to, and some of this obviously is speculation, but like he's kind of going in and out on some of those videos, and like he started making the courses towards the end. And again, we've all been in this kind of agency, life type of thing. I mean, can you do it forever? For sure. But does everybody want to do it forever? So I mean, I'm trying to be a little empathetic, like I understand it, but at the same time though, you have to have a half decent exit strategy. I mean, I remember vaguely when he said like, oh, they had, he was talking about, they had like in Toronto, Canada, they had multiple locations. I mean, I remember literally he would just be like, kind of like we are now. Like he would give out his whole, make a video about his whole proposal. Beautiful proposal. It has like 3 locations, his flagship office, and I don't know what area of Toronto it was or whatever, but like she would show all that sort of stuff. And I feel like over time, like over just that small like 3-year period, because he'd been doing it for a while, it was just like, I'm just less interested, I feel like, is kind of the vibe that I got. Less videos, less stuff like that, less content. And then at the end, he seemed like he was trying to do consulting and courses, and those ended up being kind of like, it's kind of that middle ground, obviously, between agency work and like consulting and stuff. But then again, if you go to the YouTube comments right now, like he obviously didn't service those people. I saw other comments in there from people that were subcontractors, allegedly, right, of A Nerd's World, and that didn't apparently pan out. I think I even saw some like legal documentation somewhere, about the person versus him on. So I don't know. Again, I would look into it more.
Yeah, when I first heard about it, I was like, because I didn't know about any of that stuff. And when I heard that people were criticizing him, he's not delivering on this, he's not delivering on that. I'm like, the dude's in prison. Like he's in prison. Yep. But I didn't know this went back to way before that, right? So, I was ready to cut him a break. And then you were like, oh, no. This has been going on for a while now, right? So, yeah. Because, I also don't really believe, like, the whole sedition thing, it's like, uncredentialed journalist, that sounds like some red tape nonsense. It's like, that sounds like, if there's situations and people want to document the situations, go document the situations. It's like, it's reality. It's what we're doing real stuff here. And then, so it's just a way of censoring, like, getting out reality to the rest of the world. So, not super big fan of that. And so if that was the reason why he was, not able to deliver on things that he's been doing, that would be like, okay, well, hold on. Let's have a conversation about that. But if he's been skipping out on responsibilities way ahead of time, then that's definitely a huge problem. But like I saw, it was, I think, twice he made like a concerted effort to be like, guys, I'm back. Like I'm kickstarting the channel. I'm re-energized. I'm like, that was like twice, right? And that's where, when that starts to happen, that's where those are the red flags of like, all right, something else is going on behind the scenes. So yeah.
It's, I don't know. Again, I don't think the two are completely related, other than just like him. But, I'm reading some stuff in the chat about like the whole legality and everything like that. And I would, again, reiterate that I agree with you. Like, I think that what he's doing is admirable, should be legal. I just think that there's a whole weirdness of like, it's said it's illegal. Maybe it's just a bad, you know what I mean? Bad law, badly interpreted stuff like that on the front end now. But again, though, in his past life, right? The Nerds World area. Like, I literally went to that last video, saw those comments, and I left a comment. You can go there now and see it. It's like, I feel bad for all those people because I never ended up consulting with him or buying any of the courses, but I knew about all of them. And it's like, if those people got scammed or ripped off in any sort of way, like just didn't get the value they were provided, I feel like that's a shitty situation. And I feel bad for those people. And so hopefully that gets rectified.
Yeah, well, and that's the content side of things. But he's got to have just hundreds or thousands, you would imagine, of clients on the web, like the agency side of things, right? Maybe his team is still serving them. I don't know.
I don't know. I would say I would doubt that. It's total speculation though. But like, I would say the one thing that I remember, and I wasn't in.
Did he hand off everything?
Content. I think he did. Okay. I think that it was like the packaged websites, and then it was like they would build them on the dev server and they would hand off most of them. So again, still though, he did have at one time maintenance plans. I remember all that. Right. So I don't know how that transpired, but I don't think it was a situation where like, you know, like kind of how we advise people, or at least tell agencies to think of, where it's like, you want to have the control that you want to host it for a small business or a medium-sized business or whatever. Yeah. And then actually be maintaining it and everything. I don't think that was exactly his model. I think it was much more of, like you said earlier, kind of like build a more of a templated theme type thing and then deploy it to their server wherever they have it.
Yeah. So Sheldon here, I'll just put that up on the screen. Yeah. I think it's very important I wish, the whole world could get on the same page with this kind of stuff, but it's like, there's a really good quote. It's the law is not a measuring stick for ethics. Like, people pass laws based on their opinions, and it's not necessarily linked in any way to what's ethical or moral or anything else. It's just some politician's opinion of how things should be done. Now, sometimes law and ethics go hand in hand, but a lot of times they don't. And so it can't just be said that, because it's the law, it's just, or it's moral, or it's right. Like, there's been a lot of bad laws. There's been a lot of really, really awful laws. And they still exist today. So, I don't jump straight to what's the legal or not legal thing. I jump straight to what's the ethical thing. So yeah. And I'm a big proponent of let people, publish, let people tell, the story in these different areas. 'Cause, if they're locking it down, like, that's the only way we're going to find out. So, okay. Let's go to the chat here. Daniel says no idea what's being discussed. Well, yeah, he says my fault for missing the intro. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Jamie. We did start a little bit early. I meant to send out an email to let everybody know. It because of the early start, it was, and everything going on yesterday, didn't get around to it. By the way, I'll just tell everybody, softball season is starting. So last night I had, get this is wild, dude. This is wild. I had to draft my Pee-wee team. Okay. This is what they do in Pee-wee, dog. I'm drafting 8-year-olds. Like, we did evaluations. They all got like scored up, and so I'm looking at like, what's their vertical? What's their, no, we didn't do, we didn't do like verticals and all that. We did do how fast they run to first, how fast they run all the bases. Can they catch? Can they throw? It turns out most of them can't catch, can't throw. But that's how Pee-wee is. That's our job to coach them up. But I just think it's hilarious that we get together and draft like our Pee-wee team. So yeah, that was fun. That was last night. And then, right into this morning, didn't get to send any emails. So Jamie, I apologize for not notifying about the late or the early start. Okay, we got 176 people. If you want to ask questions, #Q or #question. Let's go ahead and move on. Mark, do you want to bring up a topic, or do you want to go straight to the questions? It's up to you. I'll let you drive today.
I know we were. Oh wow, look at this. I know we had. I saw a topic in there, WCUS. I mean, that's a pretty big one that it's gonna be my first. We could talk about that. We talk about some, I don't know, random ACSS stuff.
Let me do a search real quick here.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, here. Oh, well, this one's for you, Mark. We'll put this one up on the screen.
I saw that one. Yeah. I don't know how to deal with that. It's I guess we're polygamous in the live streaming world.
Will this qualify as sedition?
I wouldn't really call it. I wouldn't call it cheating. I wouldn't call it cheating. We're just talking.
sounds like got a little.
It's trouble in paradise.
Classic relational issues there. All right. Who is Chris Hughes? Look up a Nerd's World. I mean, I would encourage you, go watch some of the videos on the channel if they're still up. I mean, it's still like it's good content, right? So you can still get value out of them regardless of what's happening now.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, let's see. To Mark, to what extent do you share Kevin's concerns about WP?
Ooh, good one.
That'll get us going.
I would say that I'm kind of in there, but my true position is I'm a little younger to the space. I'm definitely really way more green to the community side of it. I mean, literally over a year ago, if you asked me like what other page builders were, I wouldn't have known. I was just an Elementor for the last, from like 2018 to 2022-ish, 23. So I've just learned a ton in the last 12 months from guys like Kevin, guys like Matt Medeiros at the WP Minute, so many people, and I've made so many good connections. Specifically with the concerns about WP, I definitely see them because I have eyes and I use the platform. So there's definitely concerns that I have, and I always try to like stay moderately in the middle as far as like understanding kind of like both sides and like seeing what people are saying, like people that have been just core for a very long time, people that have been just page builder for a very long time. Because I feel like if I can understand both sides, then I can kind of be a little bit of a conduit, because I feel like that is kind of something that's, as valuable in some aspects. So I'm really just a curious person. I just like to see it. So I would say there's definitely concerns though. I know Kevin's done a lot for the page building community, Bricks. I'm a Bricks user. I'm an ACSS and Frames user. And I really appreciate all that because it's bettered my workflow. And I do hope that WP continues. And we're literally hopping on a call here in an hour and a half.
Yeah, well, that's why. Yeah, why don't we tell people? Yeah, why don't we tell people why we're starting early? What's going on at noon?
Yeah. So if you guys aren't familiar with everything automatic, which is there's a lot there, so I wouldn't blame you. Ann McCarthy is I got to get her title right. I believe she's a product wrangler, but she's really like a rover in like all of automatic land. And she deals with a lot of different projects, a lot of different disciplines. And one of her initiatives recently is to unite WordPress YouTubers. So there's a lot of us, that you guys probably follow, that we're popping on calls. This will be the second one and Kevin's first actually. And it's going to be exciting because it's a group of people with Ann and potentially other members of Automatic and just talking. I feel like I'm not 100% sure as to what the actual goal is, but I feel like if you get all of these really talented and intelligent people in one space, and then you also publish it for the world to see, like for the community to see, I feel like only good things can ultimately come from that. Whether or not, what form that takes, we don't necessarily know, but it can only be beneficial. I'm a big proponent of that. More talking, you guys know I love to talk. More talking, I just feel like is generally good. Yeah. So the reason we're starting early is because that's happening at 12, which would have coincided if we started at 11. And I'm really excited for that. And it just goes back to the other question about the concerns with WP. If we're not talking about these things and we're not hearing, different perspectives on things, because the world has changed in 20 years, and I know that everybody understands that and everybody has different opinions on it. And this space is just getting really big. Not just web design in general, but specifically WordPress is way bigger than it was when a lot of people started using it.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of different people. We talk about a lot of this the last few months, months and months is like the new generation. That's where, again, I feel like I'm a little younger than I feel like the average age, median age in this community. So I'm also kind of like looking behind me and I'm like, oh, these young kids, like they're hopping on Framer, they're hopping on Webflow. Kevin's talking about it all the time, there's real concerns there. And, you have to at least, see them and take them at face value. Yeah. And then from what we do there is, we got to see. So,
yeah, I think the 20-year mark actually that's a good time to reevaluate, where things are at, because 20 years lets you know, okay, well, you don't, what you want to avoid obviously becoming, and it's very easy to do in software actually, because the pace at which software moves. So to have a 20-year track record is fantastic. It's amazing. And WordPress has accomplished so much in that 20 years. But you do start to run into the danger of starting to be like the dinosaur, like the old thing, not the up and coming thing, not the cool thing, not the hip thing, not the whatever thing. If you don't keep evolving. And so I've said time and time again, like it is important to have the next generation's support, things are rapidly changing with technology to the point where some of the advantages that we used to have with WordPress are not advantages anymore, right? And we are really, and people are going to hear this more tomorrow in the Dear WordPress video, but we're hinging on just like a couple things. When we look at how we're being competitive in the marketplace, it's very common for companies to do basic analysis of like, what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are our competitors doing really well? What are they not doing well? This is all basic stuff that should be happening. And when I do that analysis, it comes back that, man, we used to have a lot of strengths, like strength after strength. We were checking so many boxes. We're checking 2 boxes now. That's it. We're not checking any more than 2 boxes now. And all the other competitors are checking all the other boxes. That does not bode well, right? And so we're at a spot where, and I think there's a lot of people on WordPress they want to avoid having these conversations. They want to avoid acknowledging these things. And I think that's very dangerous. If you love WordPress and you really, really support WordPress and you want to see it successful, you want to see it continue to dominate, then you have to look at these things objectively. You have to be concerned with these things, because we don't want to be in the situation where there was probably a lot of people sitting around at Yahoo going, guys, look how long we've been dominating. This is the attitude that these people tend to have. Look how long we've been dominating. It's obviously just going to continue. We're just going to continue dominating because look how big we are. We're too big to fail. And then Google comes along and they're like, nope, see ya. We'll take over. We have to be very careful of that, and we are poised. If you look around WordPress at what's happening, and you look at the trends of where things are going, that's that we could be on the cusp of that if we don't wake up and do some things, right? Make some moves. And part of that is this like creators talk that we're going to be on, that's one area we cannot lose in, that I think we're either starting to lose in or already losing in. But the level of talent in the creator space in places like Framer and Webflow, and even look at Figma. And I know Figma is not a direct competitor to WordPress, but it's a good community to look at when it comes to the quality of creators that are there. And I'll tell you right now, that is not an area you want to lose in. If you lose in the creator talent area, you're not going to be around much longer. So that's why I'm excited about these creator calls that we're getting on, because I think WordPress's creator community really needs to recommit to like a higher level of, creating.
100%. Yeah, I think there's you talk about it, and the words that kind of come to mind just in general, and I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to generalize like the WordPress community and like that, but the 2 words that come to mind are like complacency is scary. Like if you start to get complacent at the top, then that's generally when bad things start to happen. So there might be a minute amount of that, depending on what your opinion is on that. But the other thing is, and this one is often, I feel like, I don't know if you've said it recently or other people said it, this concept of like kind of like paranoia. Like you need to be like somewhat paranoid, not to the point where it's debilitating.
Right.
You need to be like the concept of like only the paranoid survive. Like I kind of like agree with that concept to a certain amount. Like you have to be, it's just the opposite of complacency in some ways. It's like you have to constantly be thinking that like at any time, if you want to continue to grow and continue to be the best, regardless outside of web design, like you have to be like, I want to continue to be my best and potentially be the best. You have to be like paranoid that like at any point somebody's going to come along, they're going to be better. It's literally going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's like to not think that way is a little bit, dismissive of the reality of it.
And customers customers of products should want a product founder to think like that, because it actually helps all of the people who bought the product, because that's what keeps driving. If that founder wakes up and is like, what are these other people innovating on, right? And how am I going to keep innovating my product? How am I going to continue improving the experience for my customers? You don't want the founder that's just like sitting around like, look, we made it. we did it. We reached the finish line. This is fantastic. We're not going to, we'll just go security from here. That's what we'll do. We'll just go security updates from here. So what? Like we're living in the fastest, like one of the fastest moving industries in existence. You can't just be like, oh, we're good. We don't have to keep innovating now. You have to constantly be thinking about, I was going to say worried. It's not necessarily worried. It's just thinking about what is the next thing? What is the next opportunity? Where are the holes? And how can we continue serving the people in our community?
Yeah. And the last thing I would say there is, because it's not just with software. I feel like it's with agency life too. And this is where we could probably talk for hours about this is why being like a solopreneur is so difficult, because you literally have to wear the hat of like the visionary and the actual doer at the same time. And that is not an easy task. Like you have to that's why people build teams. That's why people are successful when they start to like delegate out like that. Because if you're constantly thinking about, like, it's a full-time job to literally think and be a visionary, as right? Like, like there's so much of that you have to like be scouting the course ahead and seeing what's, the trends and what's coming and whatever like that. You really don't have a hell of a lot of time left over to actually execute on it as well. Maybe you have some time to manage the vision slightly, but that's why that, big companies, there's a lot of people doing things that don't seem like they're, digging the ditch, so to speak, but they're actually like, there's a lot more to it to be successful in that realm. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go back to questions. See if we can dig up another good one here. Any of you? Well, that's an easy one. Any of you visited the Netherlands? I have not. I don't think Mark has, but
me neither. No.
Okay, well let's just piggyback off of this. We got AT with a good question here. So you both get a magic wand. Where would you like to see WP in 5 years?
Oh man, it's a tough one. You or me?
I'll go, I guess. Where would I like to see WP in 5 years? Well, I would like to see us back to, so if you haven't caught on yet, right? I've been continually saying, I think we were dominating for a long time there, and I think that's slipping, and that's a little bit scary, okay? And for all of us, now I know some of the people that watch, not many, but there are some people that live in other worlds. They're not 100% in WordPress. So they live a little bit over here. They got a Webflow site over here. They got a little Shopify thing over here. They're not 100% in WordPress. And then they're also, entertained by the idea of maybe, oh yeah, let's go to a new up and coming CMS. Let's dabble over there. Let's build some sites on that platform. Let's distribute a little bit. And maybe, so I don't really care. Like if WordPress ends up going down one day, or it's not the dominant player or whatever, it doesn't really impact me all that much. There are some people like that. That's not me. I'm 100% WP. And have been 100% WP since 2005, okay? So I need WP to keep dominating. And I chose WP as my team. I don't like to play on losing teams. I like to play on winning teams. And so I do everything that I can to help that happen. And so right now what I'm seeing if we're just talking 5 years, we're talking very general. Now, obviously, more details will come out tomorrow on this, and will continue to come out as we head into September. So if you want details, well, just buckle up. They're coming, okay? But high level, what I'm saying right now is I feel like our team is starting that downward trend. And so in 5 years, what I would hope, because here's the duality of this. I think that the next 5 to 10 years could be amazing, or the next 5 to 10 years could be really tough, okay, in WordPress. And so, how that shakes out, we're maybe about to find out. I don't know. But if I looked up in 5 years, I would love to see us trending back towards market dominance, because we've made some really, really great decisions and we've done some really, really good things. And, but I don't have control of the ship. So, but that's what I would like to see in the next 5 years. And that's most important right now. We could talk little features. We could talk, some what people might think are significant things, or to others may be insignificant. I don't know. We just need to go 30,000 feet and go, all right, here's the trend. We got to course correct. And if we don't course correct, nothing else matters. So let's focus on course correct right now.
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind there. The first one is, I don't know if I've heard you say this or I've heard anybody else say this. I know I've heard your analogies before, and most of them I'm pretty in agreement with, but I just thought of it in this sense of, if you look at a chart, right, and you look at all the stats about how WordPress is is still the dominant thing. Everybody hears like the 43% and all that sort of stuff, but the amount of sites that's being built on it, is lowering and all that sort of stuff. I think a possible another way to think about it is not that like Webflow or Shopify or Framer are going to, dethrone WordPress. Mm-hmm. I think a much more likely option of it is like a death by 1,000 cuts type thing. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying like that seems like more of an outcome where it's like those platforms are objectively like good in certain things. They're not all good at everything though. And one thing that they are better at, and because of the nature of them actually being products, they are like the marketing dollars are there. All of that stuff like that, like they're trying to be the dominant player. Like that's their goals. So if you have like 5 like players, kind of goes back to your elephant analogy, but if you have 5 like players trying to, dethrone, not really even dethrone, they're just trying to become the best, you might have that. It's more of like, again, like the death of 1,000 cuts type thing, where it's like, it's just 5 things overtake one thing rather than one of them overtake.
Correct.
So it's not really about like one-on-one. It's just, it's kind of like a little gang up situation in a sense. I don't know if I see too many of them going against each other. I mean, probably there is some of that. I just haven't seen that marketing. I haven't seen them going at WordPress either. I just see it, as a general thing. But anyway, to try to hit on this specific question, again, I would agree with a lot of what Kevin said there. But mainly, like, if I think about it, I really like the concept. I know other people have said it. I know Paul over WP Touch just said it, kind of like a freeze on some of the certain features on like Gutenberg and Block Editor. I don't know the details there, but I'd be interested to see like a plan that had that in it, because like the CMS, the core of it, we talk about it all the time, is the thing that you can't, like, you can change it. I'm sure there's plugins to like, make the CMS better, but at the core of WordPress and the core of any like CMS is the actual CMS part, right? There's no, default custom fields and things like that. There's no, the UI is getting apparently nicer here shortly, according to some of the renderings and the Gutenberg experience we've seen, which that's a good thing. But just those types of quality of life and like actual core, let's call it like core CMS features, I think would be really the way to go. Because if there's anything lacking there right now, I feel like those would be kind of like easier, quicker wins that are going to affect everyone. And then not to mention, if you can make the core CMS better, specifically with an example of like custom post types and custom fields and those types of things, that you could always still extend, that is like, to me, when I found out about dynamic data, everybody knows I love dynamic data, like that is so transformative to the way that people understand and utilize and build websites. It's unbelievable. It opens a whole new world. You're actually building things, again, like Kevin's great series that he just had recently where he's showing like an actual build, like that thing, that concept is so transformative that I feel like if that was in the core and people didn't have to figure out about ACF and didn't have to find out about Jet Engine or whatever, like I think it would increase user base. I think people would be like way more understanding of like how it works. They would like immediately be like, oh, I want to do this. I want to add team members. I want to add services. Like there's ways to do that already built in. Yeah. But I don't know if that goes against the idea of like, they try to make like a very base layer of software that could always be extended. I don't know that, like, there's literally, and we should probably talk about on the creator call today. Like there is pieces, I feel like that the mentality is different between like somebody like us, like a creator looking from the outside, and then the core team of like what they do and don't want to do with the core software of WordPress. Yeah. Which whether you agree with it or not, like it's a conversation we had. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I was blurry there for a second. I've always got to do the hand and then there.
Yeah, I got the autofocus. I got that too.
Yeah, yeah. So no, I agree. The thing, we talk about communication and we talk about transparency. I invited Matt to come on, and he agreed to come on, but that was right before his sabbatical. Or sabbatical, if we want to say. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Stupid. Okay. So I don't know what happened. It got lost in the shuffle. I'll try to reconnect, right? But I think that I've seen interviews with him, and I don't know. The questions aren't really where they need to go. Like, somebody really needs to ask Matt, like, what he thinks about some of these core things. You mentioned custom fields, dynamic data. We all know how powerful that is. Why didn't it get put in core, right? Can we get an actual reason? Because if you were the visionary for like a CMS, if you were the leader of the CMS, right? You're thinking in your mind, and this is me if I was thinking in this way, and this is how we've thought with ACSS and all of this, you're really wanting to build a product that gives people a process that they can implement. And it's like a process that makes sense, a process that's powerful, a process that they believe in, a process that they enjoy. Then they're like, thank you. Like, look at this process. So we give, like, ACSS has a framework, and the framework provides a process, and the process adds a lot of scalability and maintainability. And we built frames, and that gives them a process of wireframing and a process of building the actual website. And then we talk about things like custom fields and dynamic data and how all of these things make a website better and make a website easier to manage and make a website more dynamic. And we're putting all these pieces together, and it's like, okay, well, if you were WordPress and you were Matt, you'd be like, well, we can't really teach that process because, we don't really have native functionality for some of this stuff. And so people are reliant on the third-party plugins. And maybe that's just the thing is it's like, well, just let them rely on the plugins. That's fine. But what I've constantly said is it's very difficult to play that game and win with new users. Because a new user coming into an ecosystem where everything is an add-on, everything is a plugin, everything is a choice, a decision, what you have to do with beginners, especially, is limit their decision-making that they have to do. And so if they come in, I use my mom all the time, like, all right, Mom, come on, we're going to do the WordPress thing, Mom. And she comes in and she's like, great, like, where do I start? And I'm like, great question. Well, you need to pick a theme. Well, which theme do I need to pick? Well, a lot of pros and cons there. Probably how many days can we have that discussion of like, what theme do I choose? And then that's not even if she wants to. Do you want to do the page building thing, Mom? Do you want to not do the page building thing? Do you want to do the block thing? Do you want to look how many conversations we already have to have? And then it's like, well, I need this and I need that. It's like, okay, now we go to the plugin repo. Mom, there's a thing called plugin repo. Let me show you. And just one piece of functionality might have 40 different plugins to choose from. And so now my mom is like, well, which one do I choose? Well, guess what? You need knowledge and experience to even make half these decisions. And so where do you get that from? So now what we've said by having this giant ecosystem is either just choose randomly. Just choose. Hopefully it works out for you. Or you do a lot of digging and research and reading reviews and what do these people say and what do those people say? And then we also know the Crockford's Law, right? Which is you know if you're choosing a plugin, there is a chance that you get 90% of the way to the finish line. And then the last 10% that you couldn't foresee at the very beginning, because you can't vet the whole thing magically. There's no magic wand for vetting a plugin. You get 90% of the way and you realize, oh my God, they've made a decision architecturally or whatever, this last feature that I need, I'm not going to be able to do it. And now you're backtracking and now you're doing workarounds and now this is so common. And this kind of environment is, to a beginner, to trying to build the next generation of WordPress users, absolute chaos. And by the way, it was not like this. So when WordPress was gaining dominance, 2005, 2010, 2000, whatever, we lived in much simpler times. Remember, this is a blogging platform. That's the other part of this, right? We are building complex websites on a glorified blogging platform. that has not changed all that much since it was used for blogging specifically, right? And that's a problem in itself, okay? But it used to be, I want to do a blog thing. Like, okay, well, choose a blog theme and then just get to blogging. That's like, there's not a ton of decisions. It's like, there's a little bit here and there, but today, I mean, you want to build an actual web. There's so many decisions, and it's not very friendly to beginners. It's not even friendly to intermediates. If you know web design and you just come into WordPress because you're like, hey, I've never done the WordPress thing. Let me try to come into WordPress. You're not going to feel at home. You're not going to feel like you know what's going on. There's still a giant learning curve. Okay, so how are we going to win in that regard?
I think there's two things that come to mind here. The first one is, and again, it's a question for the creator call, which again, if you guys weren't here earlier, the first one was published. So when it is published, it's not live, but it was published. So when it's published, we'll let you know. Because I think those chats are important to see. But the first thing about that is, I think from what I've heard, like directly, but I don't want to misquote, I don't believe that automatics, I say automatic and generally the WordPress project, I don't believe that the people with influence want there to be onboarding. Like they don't agree with that sentiment of some level of onboarding. And I understand why they are. I sort of understand the point that I've heard. Again, we should bring this up more because I want more clarification on this, but that's what I've heard. And I understand it from that perspective, but it also definitely doesn't make sense from like the conversation that we're having and the way that we think about these things and the things that we see boots on the ground, so to speak, and like all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So that's like one situation there, but I'm sure there's a ton of other pieces, not just onboarding, that are the exact same way, where it's like we think of things one way, they think of things another way, or they see it another way, or like the level of difficulty to implement is X, Y, Z, whatever. And so there's a lot there, and you probably have to go issue by issue, and hopefully we get the opportunity to do some of that stuff, at least the more impactful stuff, hopefully. The second thing, though, is a question.
Yeah.
And how much do you agree or disagree with the sentiment that all roads lead to WordPress if you are a web designer that's coming into the space and you want to continue to get better, and you have an emphasis more so on like non-coding? Like you're not just going to spin up some, you're not going to spin up VS Code and you're not going to like build some stuff. Like, do you think that most people, and I mean, we know people in the Webflow community, we know people in the other communities, but like, do you think that most people end up getting to WordPress when they get limited in these other platforms? Do you think that's a normal trajectory? Do you think a lot of people see WordPress or try WordPress and then go back the other way? Because I feel like for me, but I don't know, if I would have started in Webflow, I would have eventually made my way to WordPress when I had like limitations and things like that, but only if I knew that I could do it in Word. You know what I mean? Like that's right. Like the one big thing it has going for it is obviously open source and data ownership. But like, yeah, it is the most versatile.
That is it's a really good question. I mean, it's a really good question. We have to know, and I don't know that we know. I don't know that there's any stats on this. I don't know. This is a question for Matt. We have to have Matt. Maybe Matt has the answers to these things. How does the typical user, and then we have to define user even. Remember, we're not talking about bloggers anymore. I'm talking about everything from an agency perspective, a freelancer perspective, we build websites for businesses perspective. We build marketing engines for websites. We want data ownership. We want all these things that I constantly talk about. I'm not talking about my mom and her Bunko Club website, okay? I'm talking about websites of consequence, real consequence in the world. That's what I'm talking about. How do those people come to WordPress? We know how freelancers and agency owners, especially more technical ones, often come to WordPress. They know the advantages of this, or they are told by other people in the industry the advantages of being on WordPress, and hey, you should do this on WordPress, and yada, yada, yada. Then there's just the brand thing, the dominance thing. If you're 43% of the market, it's like being number one in SEO and attracting backlinks. The person who ranks number one is going to naturally acquire more and more and more backlinks. The rich get richer in SEO. So when you get to the top 3, you are automatically, inclined to stay there because you enjoy the benefits of being there. And that's a little bit of what WordPress is right now. But how does the average, what is that? What are we doing?
We're tuning out.
Hold on. We are. Hold on.
Got the tunes.
Oh, there we go.
A little Nick D. What was that?
That was pertinence, baby. Come on. Pertinence in the background. You don't know no pertinence, do you? You don't know no pertinence. You got to get on that pertinence train. I'm with all the independent artists, baby. Come on. Okay. Pertinence is not safe. Not safe. You got to put the earmuffs on. Okay. If you can do a little pertinence. Okay. Which is good that we got that pause before anything. Before anything crazy started. I like the comments. The comments is hilarious. Okay. If I think about the business owners I've done websites for, right? I brought them to WordPress, right? They rely on, all these business owners rely on the agencies and freelancers they hire. I've been in plenty of boardrooms where they're talking about, okay, yeah, we know about WordPress, but they don't really know the technicalities and stuff. They're wanting the agency and freelancer to sell them on the platform. And they're asking readily, are there other options for us? And a lot of times it's the agency freelancer selling them on WordPress, bringing them. And that's why I wrote this email yesterday where I was like, it's really awkward that WordPress has ignored our side of things seemingly for so long, right? They focused heavily on bloggers. They still focus on bloggers. I went to WordCamp US last year. Matt's up talking. And you know what he's telling us to do? He's telling us to go encourage more people to blog. That's what he's telling. That was his message to us at WordCamp last year, right? And again, I don't think that is going to secure the future of WordPress. So he's focused on bloggers. They're heavily focused on enterprise. So if you look at all the talks that they gave, the examples, what they had NASA up there, and in order to do enterprise, they want to do the custom theme, custom block side of WordPress. Those are the three camps. So they want bloggers, they want enterprise, and they want all the agencies and freelancers who are going to custom code themes and do custom blocks. That's who they're really paying attention to. I don't know that is the group, the three groups that are really responsible for the rise of WordPress, the dominance of WordPress. To me, it's all the agencies and freelancers who, and we know Elementor and Divi, as much as I rail on them, they have gazillions of users and they have onboarded gazillions of businesses into WordPress. They are responsible for selling WordPress to all of the businesses that are out there using WordPress right now. Freelancers and agency owners who don't necessarily want to code themes and code blocks and who aren't bloggers, right? And who aren't doing enterprise. That's the middle America of WordPress, okay? The middle America of WordPress is agency owners and freelancers who have been recruiting millions of businesses into WordPress. And WordPress leadership, do they seem to want to listen to what we have to say and our needs and wants and desires? Doesn't seem like it. And that's the most awkward part of this whole situation.
That is a real interesting one. And I think the other part of it, though, and I wish we had data on this. I don't know if it lives somewhere, if there's any way to know about this, but the idea of this concept that there's so many millions of websites, 43% of the world, and there's two questions is like, how many of them are literally like installs, but like not completely inconsequential, not just like a Bunko Club website, like just like dead websites. Yeah. So that's the first thing that I don't think we have any clarity on. But the second thing is how many of them are just not necessarily dead, but completely like DIY, because it's like DIYer, agency, enterprise would kind of be like those three. And I've heard a lot of people say that, especially, I don't know about now because it's so easy. I genuinely wonder, I'd love to know the data on this and the lay of the land here. If you were a DIYer, you're not trying to start an agency, you just have a random website that you want to build because you think it'd be cool to have a website. Totally understandable. Are you going to, like, what is the likelihood that you're going to go to WordPress in 2024 if you're a complete DIYer? I think that's kind of part of the crux of our conversation too. Yeah. I don't think it's extremely likely. Like, I mean, like, why would you, like, I mean, I say this before. I asked, a buddy of mine on the golf course, I tell him like, oh, I'm big in the WordPress community. Like, I'm like, I'm talking to different people and doing stuff. And he's like, oh, I thought WordPress, I thought that was dead. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the general person, I'm not saying it is dead. Again, just for the footnote there. I'm just saying, like, if that is what a average person is thinking, because then you the follow-up question is, oh, you know about Wix though, right? It's like, oh yeah, I see it all the time. It's like that's I'm not sure if that is, I don't know exactly how to fix that problem given the distinction between a project and a product that is always brought up there and is valid. But that is the whole thing. Like, that is a complete illustration of everything. You boil everything that you say down, everything that everybody else says down. That is it right there. It's like, do you want these people on the thing or not? Like,
Right.
because if they don't really know about it, you know what I mean? They know about the other ones. So it's just a real
well, it's
example.
also, okay, so they have obviously way more marketing dollars. So Wix, you know, every time I'm on the web, I see a Wix commercial. I don't see as many Wix seems to be the main player in the advertising space. I've seen some ads for Framer, I think. You know, occasionally you'll see an ad for Squarespace.
Shopify's kind of big.
Shopify for sure. Shopify, but that's, see, my brain even isolates because I don't do a lot of e-commerce stuff. So my brain doesn't even pay all that much attention to Shopify. But like Wix, absolutely for sure. And actually, I would say Shopify, I mean, I've always felt that e-commerce, like in WordPress, is like trying to put a triangle into a square hole. It's like, it's not really, I mean, if you want to talk about pushing a blogging platform to the max, like that's what we're doing with heavy e-commerce in WordPress. That's what it feels like, okay? And so and I'm not in that world all that much, so I kind of already compartmentalize that away. But if I was counter programming to WordPress, for example, let's say I was a competitor, I was Wix, right? It's so fucking easy. Like what I just said about the chaos of the WordPress ecosystem, I would just hammer that home at all times, where it's like, guys, come to Wix and look how clean, simple, unified all of this stuff is. And then look at WordPress. You got the wild, wild west chaos. Good luck over there. Good luck picking themes. Good luck. Because themes in Wix, I mean, let's be very clear about this. And this is why I said WordPress maybe needs to get away from the whole theme thing, okay? Themes in Wix, the consequence of choosing a theme in Wix is design and layout. You are essentially like, what do I want my new website to look like? Oh, like that. With WordPress, you are not just choosing, like that is not all that a theme is in WordPress. You are choosing architectural decisions. You are choosing underlying code base. You are choosing what that developer decided to give you or not give you as part of that theme in terms of actual functionality, in terms of hooks, in terms of lots of things. And then they're pairing builders with their themes. And it's like, well, what builder? And then this is the chaos that I'm referring to. And if I was Wix, there's no way Wix versus WordPress in an advertising sense to beginners and new users, there's no way WordPress can win that. Like they are absolutely going to make people believe that WordPress is chaos and it's going to be very difficult for you. There's going to be a very steep learning curve. And that is the death to any product that needs to onboard new users and beginners. You don't want that to be the reputation, right? So that's the thing that we really have to start. One of the things, I mean, there's a lot of things in WordPress, but that's one of the things that we really have to start figuring out. Now, is that helped by the fact that there's 3 different UIs? No. Is that helped by the fact that there's the block editor situation going on right now? No. Is that helped by the fact that the CMS part is, 15 years old and hasn't really been innovated on? And it is literally a dinosaur. It's a UI dinosaur. It's a functionality No. So we're not doing ourselves any favors either. We have a lot of, this is what I'm talking about. We have a lot of work to do, or we are going to look up in the next 5 to 10 years and we are not going to be the winners. We are not going to be the winners. And the people that think everything is fine right now, or it's on track right now, I hate to break it to you, it ain't. It ain't. And so if we want to be the winners in 5 to 10 years, some things are going to need to change. I think that's the main point that I wanted to make about the beginner side of things. There was one more I wanted to hit on, but it'll come to me. I'll let you keep talking and then I'm sure it'll pop up.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think the big thing that came to me there was when you were talking about themes, the fact that like Bricks is technically a theme, Generate Press is technically a theme, do completely different things. Like, if you're a complete beginner to that and you're like looking at just, what theme do I want? And you type in like WordPress themes. I mean, I'm not sure if you're going to get both of those on a list, but like, like you would get things that are like classic themes. You would get block themes. You would get literally what is a page builder installed as a theme, right? In the Bricks, and other ones, right? So there's this weird thing that has happened where I feel like the semantics and the verbiage, and I know you talk about all the time in the block editor side of things, right? Like what is a group and all that sort of stuff, but those become like real problems at scale, I feel like. And I'm sure that WordPress is not the only culprit of doing stuff like that, But I just, that is so, I feel like it's really detrimental to just have things that categorization in language is so important. And like when we just like start naming things, different things, just kind of to be different, that's obviously very, very, very
that actually, okay. So hold on, you just triggered it. Okay. You just triggered it. Thank you. Thank you. No, that's what I wanted to hit on. So going back to the fight between like a Wix and a WordPress or a Squarespace and a WordPress, their messaging has been very, very consistent. We are a beginner platform. Like you are so open to beginners. Like you just come on off the street. The ads all say you can build a website in 5 minutes on Wix. Like it's a lie. It's a lie. But that is the narrative that they're putting out there. And that's the target they are trying to attract. Now, I've said it's a lie. I've said it's impossible. You take people off the street. We can talk more in a minute about how beginners actually build websites. Okay. I think we should get into that. How do beginners actually build websites? The mistake that WordPress made, because you're not backed by an environment that is friendly to beginners. That's already the default. You have to know that, okay? Self-awareness in WordPress is very important. .org has to be self-hosted. It's already hurdle number one, okay? Then there's the plugin ecosystem. Then there's the theme ecosystem. And you said block themes versus non-block themes. And does the theme come with a builder? Is the theme a builder? That is chaos, absolute chaos. So you can't then also parrot the Wix narrative. Hey, we're for everyone. Guys, we're so beginner friendly. Look at this block editor that's so beginner friendly. Come in. Anybody off the street can come in and use WordPress. It's fantastic. Sorry, you are not going to win that fight against Wix because Wix doesn't have the chaos and beginners hate chaos. Okay, so if beginners hate chaos, Wix doesn't have the chaos. WordPress can't be like, well, we're for beginners too, but come into our chaos situation. WordPress.org, and this is where I get back into, we have a .com. I mean, you could do that. You could do the Wix thing with .com if that's what you wanted to do. But with .org, you can't play that game. That is a losing game. That is a losing strategy. .org needs to be the place where people who know what they're doing come. That's where the place where the freelancers and the agency owners come and they bring their clients to it, right? This is not, .org is not for my mom. Okay? Because here's the reality about how beginners build websites. Beginners come into a Wix or a Squarespace situation and they are handed layouts and design on a silver platter. They are handed tools to manipulate content, to change colors, to swap images, and so on and so forth. And that, guys, is the extent of what they are able to do. And even at that, they're not good at it. And even at that, they get highly frustrated. And even at that, they give up after 3 days and end up hiring a freelancer half the time if the website is of any consequence, right? And so that's what we have to understand about how beginners, the idea that a beginner comes in, okay, because we're talking about how software is designed. How do you design a block editor? How do you design a Wix? How do you, I'm talking from a software developer standpoint now. You have to know the user. If you don't know the user, the software is not going to work. My mom is not, it doesn't matter how much you dumb it down. It doesn't matter how much you go in your little head. Oh, we can't call it a container or a div. They won't know what a div is. Let's call it a group. That'll clear up everything. So they call it a group. They think that this is going to make sense to a beginner. When the reality is none of it makes sense. None of it. They don't even understand how websites come together. They don't know what's going on under the hood. They don't know anything. And if you give them a blank slate, it doesn't matter how dumbed down the controls are. It doesn't matter how easy you think it is. They are not going to build a website from scratch. They are not going to build a layout from scratch. They are reliant 100%, unless they're going to go through all the learning curve, they are 100% reliant on a developer giving them a starting point. They have to be given patterns, they have to be given layouts, they have to be given starter designs, and then they can make tweaks. That is the extent of what they are able to do. So now when we look at something like the block editor, you have to ask the question, who is going to create those things that the beginners need? Well, we are. Can we create them with the block editor? No. They dumb down the environment so much that the people who need to build the things in that environment don't have the tools they need to build the things in that environment. Thus, how is anybody going to win? How is anybody going to win? And then their solution is, I say, where do we build these things? Well, they go, well, I mean, that's easy. Pop open VS Code, pop open some JSON files, pop open some React, pop open. I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's not where I want to live. That's not where I want to do my work. So they've effectively they've dumbed it down so much that it's a glorified content editor. But then it's like, but we need patterns for the beginners. Who's going to build the patterns? We can't build the patterns with the tools that we're given. And that's why we have more block themes. We have more block systems. And this just adds to the chaos more decisions to make, more things to choose from, nothing native. I mean, my gosh, I want a carousel. Well, just go. You got to get a plugin for that. I mean, how many plugins am I going to end up with at the end of the day, right? Because I needed a plugin for a carousel. I need a plugin for an accordion. I need a plugin for a slider. I need a plugin for, and it's just like, and we think a beginner is going to put this stack together. We could this doesn't make any sense, right? And so this is what I've been trying to point out. And the reason it's all happening is because we fucking bought the lie. We literally, it's like WordPress watched the Wix commercial and they were like, oh my God, you're right. People can build websites in 5 minutes. We got to make our environment do that too. And they just tried to copy Wix, that narrative, hey, let's just be for everybody. We can make it as easy as possible. And they weren't self-aware enough to say, that's not our platform. That's not our identity. That's not the ecosystem that we provide. And that's not the people. Those kinds of people, my mom and her Bunko Club website, are not why WordPress gained dominance in the market. I'll tell you that right now, okay? Going back to the middle America of WordPress, it was the agency owners and the freelancers bringing in millions of legitimate businesses to this platform through their recommendations, recognizing things like a powerful CMS, data ownership, and extensibility, and on and on and on and on. And the freelancers and the agency owners guiding their clients through this maze, giving them the stack, giving them the website, right? That's what got WordPress to be dominant. We cannot continue to buy into the lie that anybody can build a website. It doesn't matter how easy you think you've made it or how dumbed down you think you've done it. They cannot build a website, period. So we need to focus on the freelancers. We need to focus on the agency owners. We need to give people the right tools, the real tools to do the work. And then if you want people to be able to edit, let's make it so people can edit. But we are not dumbing everything down to the ultimate lay user. And then the freelancers and agency owners who are actually professionals are like, all they're doing is living life doing workarounds. Like, oh, I can't really use these tools. They're too dumbed down. I mean, I got to work around, or I got to go work in VS Code, or this is a nightmare. Rant over.
Two big thoughts. Rant over. That was a good one. Two big things, two big thoughts. One, I would encourage anyone that if you obviously you probably agree with what Kevin says there, but if you're at all skeptical of that, specifically on the DIYer one thing that I've done recently, I've talked to Brendan O'Connell about this. He's the one that kind of got me into some of this. WordPress, I know at one point, probably pre-COVID, but still is it's a huge segment of the website meetup. There's the idea of having meetups and going on those meetups. There's a lot of virtual ones now. I've attended several, a lot of really good and seasoned WordPress admins, developers and stuff like that go to them. There are also, I mean, I guess somehow people that find them that are DIYers and they go into those groups. And I will tell you what, that is one of the best case studies that you could possibly sit in on and see when they bring in, a help desk situation where they come in and they say, hey, I have this problem. My logo in my header is not showing up. I'm in Spectra or some XYZ, whatever builder, doesn't matter. Bricks, it doesn't matter. And I don't know how to do this. And it is really interesting and just educational to see what somebody who doesn't build websites all the time, and they're not asking deeper questions about dynamic data. And we're just talking basic, just showing a logo on a theme, not even something that you need to pull in or anything like that. We're just talking customizer as an example here, right? Nothing crazy. And it's really interesting to see. I just got an echo. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but let me know. But it's interesting to see all that and how that kind of goes. And I want to ask you a specific question off of that as well.
Yeah.
We talked about this, I think, offline a little bit, but from a abstraction, how do you feel about that whole conversation as far as like how, like, okay, so you already have like WordPress, which is kind of abstracted away from like coding, so to speak. And then you have a layer up, which is either like bricks or another page builder or something like that. And then you start layering on more things. And like, obviously ACS kind of like abstracts a lot of things away that I wouldn't know how to do or wouldn't want to do in a framework. And we're just talking about all of this with kind of like how themes work and just like the lay user. And like, I mean, where do you draw the line? What are your thoughts around that? Kind of like what's the vibe there?
Well, it's actually like your example of the logo. I mean, I think we should talk about that a little bit more detailed, because what would you say? First of all, reiterate, what was the problem with the logo that this person was trying to get help with? Positioning it?
I mean, believe it was just a Spectra like theme.
Yeah.
Like I've never used Spectra, but it was like, you know how like back in the day when you first started, you would install a theme. Even now, I mean, you install a theme and then it has like a header builder, however the UI is for that.
Yeah.
And then you go to like show logo in a transparent header or whatever. And there was something that was already misconfigured coming into it, that what the solution was like resetting the settings of the customizer.
Yeah.
So like, it just like there was some transparency issue or some like fill color issue, but it was just showing a picture up there, and it was like really a basic thing, but there was already pre misconfigured things, and it was just a interesting situation.
So I think that it's actually really helpful to break it down to like minute details like this when people are trying to understand. And I mean, any beginner that's watching is gonna they're gonna align with this right away, immediately. People that have been in the game for a while, they forget about these kinds of details. Okay, now keep in mind that I get on streams I get on private calls, Zoom calls all the time. And I because I do consulting. So I help people with their website. I watch them build, I coach them through building. Like, some people want to learn, they want to learn in private, right? So we get on a Zoom call and I'm walking them through, like literally teaching them how to do stuff. Okay. So I see, plus my daughter's like super interested in it, right? So I help her a little bit. We did a little series in the Inner Circle where she was part of it, which you can get to see, like, what does it look like when an actual beginner uses these things. But you break it down to one specific concept, like a logo. The amount of decisions and just the learning curve of getting a logo on the page properly. Because if you gave Bev, like, all right, Bev, I'm going to give you access. Don't worry, Bev, I dumbed down this tool so much for you. Like, you're just going to be able to go in, you're going to know exactly how to put this logo in place. The fact remains that she's still most likely 9 out of 10 times going to go put a JPEG logo in that spot, right? Okay. We all know that. When we ask clients, hey, please send me your logo. Can you raise your hand? Raise your hand. Who's been given the JPEG file? Who's been given the PNG? And even though it's a PNG, it still has a block white background, right? It's not transparent, right? How often do you get an SVG? How often do you get an SVG that's formatted properly? We could talk about this all day. This is just one little thing. We haven't even, you're going to build a website. We haven't even gotten past, not even the header. We haven't even gotten past the first element in the header without a learning curve. There's already the learning curve of what's a JPEG, what's a WebP, what's a SVG, what's a why. There's just questions, endless questions, right? And then we have to say, well, we need that in SVG format. Well, I don't know what the fuck that is. Now I got to go have a conversation with my graphic designer and say, can you get me this file? I don't even know what they're wanting. Can you send that over? We haven't even gotten past the first element of the first part of the first page, and we're already into a technical discussion, okay? We have to understand that when somebody says they are a beginner or we're trying to onboard or bring in new people to WordPress, this is where a lot of them are at. And it doesn't matter how dumbed down you make the editor, there's just the fact of life. There is a tremendous learning curve to building websites. Period. Just fucking accept it now and we will all be happier, okay? Which leaves us at the conclusion that none of these people can, will, or should build a website from scratch. Absolutely, they need either a developer to do it for them, to get them to a starting point, give them patterns, give them a whole layout, give them a UI, give them whatever, and then they can move stuff around. But that is going to be the extent of their experience, period, end of story. Everything else is a fucking fairy tale.
My question there, playing a little devil's advocate, is do you believe that Are you basically saying nobody should ever DIY anything in any circumstance? Because the only thing that I would like slightly maybe tweak in that from my perspective is I absolutely agree with the idea of not everybody can, or pretty much a non-professional cannot create a website that is not professional, so to speak, right? Like if not everybody can create a professional website is a better way to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But like just a website, I mean, what are your thoughts there? Like, do you not want anybody building websites? Do you think it's or is it a specific type of website, like anything that's like going to be used for a business?
No, that's a really really good question. No, yeah, that's a really good question because you framed it as, do you not want anybody building a website, right? It's not. I'll make it very clear. None of this is about what I want. None of this is about what I want. I'm just talking about the facts of the situation, right? Now, let's just imagine for our second, we've got a success story, right? Mr. Jim Bob, okay? Jim Bob, we're going to fast forward. Jim Bob created his own website. He had an idea for a business. He was able to DIY it on WordPress, and WordPress we're going to bring Jim Bob to the next conference, and we're going to celebrate Jim Bob on stage. Look at Jim Bob grinded his way through making his own web. He didn't have a cent to his name. This is Jim Bob's story. Jim Bob didn't have a cent to his name, and he was able to get on WordPress, and he was able to grind his way through making his own website, and it actually started to take off, and he had a great idea for a product, and now Jim Bob just closed his first $1 million in sales. Give it up for Jim Bob. Look, I love that fucking story. I love that story. And is that story possible? Absolutely, it's possible. Why? Because it is possible for Jim Bob to grind his way through getting his first website up on something like WordPress, okay? Very, very, I mean, even if you pick the theme, but we're talking about somebody building from scratch, right? That's the context that we're talking from. Could a Jim Bob grind his way from scratch to his own starter website, blah, 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 and go off and right off into the sunset? Absolutely, right? Now, he grinded his way through it, which means, what did he do? Lots of Googling, lots of video watching, lots of learning, right? Lots of going through that learning curve, and he got to the finish line. So you have to accept it wasn't easy for Jim Bob, right? There was no, oh yeah, he did it and it was easy. He was willing to grind his way through it. I love people that are willing to grind. I love people but that's not the advertisement. That's not what fucking Wix said what was going to happen, right? So that's just not a situation that's comparable to the narrative, right? That's actually fits my narrative because that's what I've been saying. The fact of the matter is, how many Jim Bobs are out there? How many people want to sign up to be Jim Bob? How many people see the advertisement and expect that it's going to be the Jim Bob story, right? Where I have to grind through and watch endless hours of YouTube and make so many mistakes and get help from people in the community and yada, 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 yada. That's what we need to realize. It is possible. It is great when it happens, but that can't be the narrative that we expect everybody to go through. If that's our expectation that everybody's going to follow that path, we are going to fail a large portion of society because they're not going to do that.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know. I think it's a fine line. You don't want to like discourage people from potentially getting into the space if they want to. But again, I think you've used it before, like the idea of like there's a professional, there's a DIYer, there's an aspiring professional. And I think that's a really important distinction to make because it's the idea of it being for everyone and democratizing publishing is like a cool concept. But at the same time, like, I really think that, and hopefully again, the creator call we have is an opportunity for us to like get aligned on some of the actual perspectives and the way that like we perceive these things to be, like the meaning behind the actual words, so to speak, and the phrases. It's tough.
Let's go back to Hughes questions. Let's see. We've been neglecting the questions a little bit here. Okay, here you go. Why don't you fork WP and make it your own? Well, what do you think about a fork, Mark? I mean, what's your appetite for a WordPress fork?
So my problem with that is I don't know what that entails at all from a technical perspective. And I also don't know. You tell me the answer to this question. If we forked WordPress at, what are we at, 6.7? Can you like start creating your own thing, Kevin Press or whatever, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Could you create that, and then as WordPress adds new things, could you just grab those and pull them in? But you obviously already have like your base of whatever, like as set up and everything.
I mean, I'm not the technical lead to ask, really. Theoretically, you can. Now, if you've changed parts of that code base that you're then trying to pull, like if that thing you're pulling relies on something, you're gonna have conflicts, right? I know this enough from automatic CSS development and branches, and absolutely, like you can, in 3 days, you can go off, create a new branch, and then you come back to merge it, and there's merge conflicts that you got to figure out. So it would get very, very messy. Like it probably would not be a practical approach. Like if you forked it, you would just, okay, from this point forward, we're going in our direction, and we're not sitting there trying to piecemeal, like, all right, what did they do? And we'll pull that part in, but not this other part. Like that seems like that would be maybe not a great strategy. Again, I'm not the technical lead to ask about that, but from my perspective, a fork of WordPress, it's not a situation that I would even entertain right now. I know there's been a lot of speculation about that might be the thing, right? That might be what we're about to hear. That's not what you're about to hear. I'll just tell you that point blank. Because I still fully believe in WordPress. So again, when you're, if we're using the team analogy, we're all playing on the WordPress team, right? Are you ready to throw in the towel on your team? Are you ready to diverge and start a brand new team, and then try to compete with that brand? No, I mean, that's not the point that we're at right now. Now we look up in 5 to 10 years and things have still slid straight downhill. You have to reassess, like, okay, now we got to make a new decision because we have new information and new things are happening. But at the current standpoint right now, no, that would be not a good move. That would not be a good move. Aside from the massive technical aspect of all of that, you're also now having to convert a lot of people who are, for the most part, they're happy with WordPress. They have a lot of workarounds that they have to do. They don't have the necessary, they don't enjoy necessarily the environments that they're working in. But when everything shakes out, when all the pros and cons shake out and they realize, hey, I've been on WordPress for 10 years. I know it like the back of my hand. Yada, yada. Okay. Like it's just the appetite for like leaving and going to a fork is not, I don't see it even being there. So that would be the first thing you would have to even look at if you were going to try to do something like that, is what is the appetite for the general WordPress community? It's not there. It's not there. So that would be a bad time. That would be something called bad timing. And then it's just, I don't see any paths to any sort of victory just willy-nilly trying to do that. Much better is to do what I'm doing, which is essentially saying, we've done so many tremendously awesome things. WordPress is a fantastic product and project, okay? And there's some issues with it, and those issues can absolutely be fixed and overcome, and we can still win. We can go back to being the dominant player. We can win in the categories that we used to be winning in, that we're not winning in now. We can very easily reclaim those victories. We just need to understand what's happening, and we need to make some decisions about it, and we need to do it together, and I think we can absolutely win. So there's no reason to fork.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've already seen classic press and such, right? So, like, I mean, I don't know if that's really.
See, when that came out, I didn't even entertain it. I didn't even entertain it. So, yeah. And I don't think people would entertain the next one either. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What do you think about forking chickly when it's FOSS? I think that would translate into quickly. But I don't know what the last part of that
for sale maybe
means. Maybe I don't know. I think a lot of people believe that if Quickly was for sale or something, they, in their mind, all that means is like, I can buy it and I can start working on it. And that's not the case. Like if you bought Quickly, it would be months and months and months and months of just an analysis of the code base and of trying to, it was the same thing with like automatic CSS. I'll go into automatic CSS and there's something I did a year ago where I have to reanalyze like the logic of it. And then what does that impact? If I make a change here, what kind of impact might that have in other areas and so on and so forth? And if imagine I can do that as the developer of ACSS, but imagine if you didn't even build the thing to begin with. There's so many things you just don't even know what the implications of making a change might possibly be, which means you have to go very slow. You have to do a lot of analysis and you have to do an insane amount of testing. And so the idea that you would just buy Quickly and then start developing on top of Quickly and make it just fantastic and take out the things we don't need and add the things that, oh my God, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Like that would be a tremendous, tremendous project in itself. So there's a lot of technical stuff and even technical debt in a lot of these plugins, which technical debt, it harasses the developer of the plugin itself, much less the people that inherit it or buy it. It's just not as easy as people think it is. And the timelines would be much longer than people would assume that they would be.
Yeah, I saw that in the comments. There's somebody clarified it's free open source software was the FOSS thing, which makes, I mean, again, yeah. So if you were going to like fork Quickly when it was open source, that's a really another, obviously probably not advisable per se, but like now you, like you said, technical debt and stuff, but it goes back to like the WordPress thing. I mean, I feel like isn't part of our issue that we're facing right now kind of just in WordPress is that there is a lot of legacy situation kind of going on there. And it's almost just, I mean, you can build on top of it for sure, because you can kind of like isolate a lot of those things and you just deal with WordPress being WordPress. But if you were going to fork it, then you'd have to probably deal with all those things, which again, takes it back to, we're not saying any of these things are easy, so to speak, like there's no easy solutions to a lot of this stuff. But, you know, I've heard things like, you know, certain legacy stuff. I don't know. Was it you the other day that said somebody feel like said it, like if we talk about all those dead sites, like we want everything to be legacy compatible, but at the same time, like if they all just evaporated because of something that made everything moving forward better, I'm not basing an ethical judgment on that just yet, because I haven't fully thought about that, but it is a thing. It's like, should we made mistakes. Like you make mistakes in software 20 years ago, like no doubt about it. There's better ways to do things now. So how do you rectify for that? How do you, well, I mean, some people would make the argument that WordPress would fork itself almost, where it's like there's a legacy version, right? And then there's this new version where we are going to make changes to the architecture that fix things that were done in the past. I mean, like we go into things like, how do you fix the permalink situation that currently exists in WordPress, where I can't even choose a custom front end slug for my blog posts, like without assigning that front end slug to every URL on the website by default. Okay. So that's an architectural decision. That's technical debt in terms of like, that's just the decision that was made. And why was that made? Because that was made when WordPress was a blogging platform and there was no vision of, well, that might not be great for like the websites of the future, right? that are coming down the pike. Because remember all this talk that we're doing about custom fields and dynamic data and loops and logic, and nobody was talking about that stuff in the blogging days. That just is not there. Like simple loops, that was all that people needed. So we are evolving how websites are built and managed, and we're on a platform that is a glorified blogging platform, and that hasn't really kept up with the times and hasn't innovated in terms of content management and the way that certain URLs and content relate to other content. We've got the taxonomy situation. We've got the tag situation. We've got the bidirectional relationship situation. And then if you use relationships, the querying power, right? The resources that are needed to query those things are dramatically different than if you use a taxonomy structure. And then we have everything stored in one essentially post table, where we're not doing custom tables for custom data. That brings in problems with performance, and Matt's been asked about that, and he's kind of pushed back on it. But I think that's an area where somebody would say it's just technical debt. It's like you can't just make these broad sweeping architectural changes like this willy-nilly. And that's why when people talk about a fork, it almost gets to a point. I mean, we're 20 years in. Somebody would probably ask, do you just
start fresh with the CMS concept? Or do you unravel all of this spaghetti that's been going on for the past 20 years? What's easier? What would get to you? What would get to the solution faster? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not entertaining that side of things, so it doesn't really matter to me. But somebody is going to have to tackle that. Somebody is going to have a discussion about that. I know that we can't go into the 2030s with a glorified blogging platform. Like, we do have to start innovating the CMS. We do have to start putting some of these pieces together or fixing them because, you know, it's already unraveling a little bit. It's already breaking a little bit. It's already not working for the future of websites, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, agree.
All right, let's do a couple more questions and we'll get out of here because we got the creator call to jump on. D123 says, what is the creator call? So we alluded that a little bit earlier, where it's essentially just a powwow with WordPress creators discussing, WordPress and creating around WordPress because the creator pool is very important to what we want to do, obviously, and what WordPress wants to do, what Automatic wants to do. And if we're all on the same page, we're all communicating and we're all sharing ideas and things like that, I think it's going to be better for everybody. So Mark's participating in that. I'm participating in that. I don't even know who else are we expecting to be on the call. Mark, have you been on one before?
Yeah, I was on the first one. If you guys want to see the first one, it's published on Ann McCarthy's channel. She's a Automatic employee. So I was on quite the recruiting trail between the first call and the second call. So Kevin's joining us now, and I know WP Toots wants to try to make it. I think Imran, Web Squadron, Brendan O'Connell. If you name the people in the WordPress space, like, I don't know the full list, but there's a lot. Matt Medeiros. So yeah, it's just us that are out here talking about stuff, seeing stuff every day, getting great feedback from you guys in the chat and everything like that. And we're just trying to open more lines of communication. Because I haven't been here for too long, but I don't remember seeing something like this before. So kudos to Ann for putting it together.
So Bill Lewis says WordPress is used by 43.4% of all the websites. That is a content management system market share of 62.6%. Okay, so yeah, this point is this is the line, right? So if you're going to give people the WordPress brochure and the sales brochure, I made this joke to my wife the other day because she comes home from the alternative orthodontist, right? I don't know if anybody knows, there's a big thing about like braces. Are braces great? Or there's this new thing called applied light force therapy, which is kind of like, it's a little bit different. But anyway, you go and they'll obviously give you the brochure. Anywhere you go, they give you the brochure. And so my wife comes home and my gosh, she is sold on applied light force therapy. And I was like, man, you bought the whole brochure, didn't you? Like, I want to look into it first, but you love that brochure that they gave you. That was very clear. Right. So if you were going to give people the WordPress brochure, that's one of the first things, guys, like, we're 43% of them, 62%. Here's all the stats coming in. The stat they don't want on the brochure, though, and that we all need to be very clear of, because, there is a leading indicator for if you're looking ahead. That's why I like to look ahead. Right? It's great to look at what you've done, and it's great to pat yourself on the back. And that 43% number and that 62%, whatever that works out to, that's a pat on the back. Look at the history. That's that kind of stat. But the stat that tells the tale of what's about to happen is this. And I don't have the exact number on it, but what I do know is, relative to where we used to be, the percentage of new websites being started with WordPress is dramatically lower than where it used to be and where it needs to be. Okay. And if that number doesn't come up, that's a problem, because it doesn't matter how many sites use it now. We're talking about new site being created. Those aren't WordPress sites. Okay. That's a big problem. So if you're looking to the next 5 to 10 years, that's a category you cannot lose in. If you're losing in the category of new sites being started with WordPress, that spells disaster for the next 5 to 10 years. And it doesn't matter how many pats you give yourself on the back for what's happened in the past, that is not going to save you going into the future. So that is the stat we have to change. That is the category we are currently losing in. Let's not forget that.
Yep, 100%.
All right. Where can the creators call be viewed live? Tyree said, I don't think it's live, right? It's just recorded.
Yeah, it's not live. It should be on Ann McCarthy's channel in I don't know, less than a week, I would assume.
Cool. All right, let me tell everybody about tomorrow, what's going to happen. So the Dear WordPress video comes out tomorrow. Some people have asked, is it a live stream tomorrow? Is it an hour early? It goes live at 10 a.m. It is not a live stream. It is what YouTube calls a premiere, right? Which is YouTube takes a video and premieres it. And the premiere time is 10 a.m. It makes it like a live stream in the sense that you can chat on it. So we can all show up together. I'll be there. And we can all chat about it. It's 12 minutes. Okay. So if you're concerned about the time or the length or anything else, it's literally a 12-minute video. So it's very quick to digest. Come show up. Again, I'll be there. We'll be in the chat talking. I would like you, if it resonates with you, then I want you to share it with somebody that's in Word that you know is involved in WordPress. Okay, help it get around. There is a larger mission at play here. For those of you who are wondering more about Etch is a piece of a larger, broader mission within WordPress. We think it is going to be a critical piece. But you have to understand what's going on with the state of WordPress right now. You have to understand the history of how we got to this point and what the workflow and the tools currently look like for the people who operate within the WordPress ecosystem. If you don't understand these things, if you don't have this context, then the Etch project won't make as much sense to you and won't seem as important as it actually is. And so these are the things we have to talk about. This is the lead up to it. So show up tomorrow. I'll be here. We'll watch the video together. We'll chat about it. We'll share it around. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people, with their opinions. There'll be a lot of poppies coming out to say their thing, to dance and sing. And it'll be a fun time for everybody. But then in September is when things start to really heat up. Okay, so beginning of September is the live streams. The live streams are where you are going to get all of the details that you want. Okay. But you got to sign up to those. You got to show up live. They're not going to be recorded and released. The people that show up live are the people that get in. So that's going to be super important there. So tomorrow, I just wanted to clear up a little confusion, is not a live stream. It is a video premiere. It is only 12 minutes long. I will be there in the chat though. We can all watch it together. And then we'll need to have some discussions about it. And then you'll just follow the developments from that point forward. Paul says real quick, when is the next IC office hours? So that's going to be coming up probably next week. I usually do them toward the end of the month. So I think next week would be a good time. I'll get that on the schedule. There will also be a co-working with Kevin probably later this week or early next week. So that'll be a good time to come hang out and get some work done together. Any last final thoughts, Mark, before we get out of here?
Buddy, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Kevin, for having me. Thank you guys for in the chat here. It's been awesome. Hopefully we entertained you and tried to educate you and everything like that. But appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It was good having you. And thanks everybody for being here. We will be back very soon. We'll fill you in on what's happening on these creator calls so that you guys are on the same page. And that's it. Peace.